All right, let's transition into our. Well, can you hear me okay? Sorry. Hello.
Hey, Paul.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Paul.
Good, good. So the audio is fine on my end. I can hear you clearly as well. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm able to hear you as well, Paul.
okay,
That's good.
perfect. So I'm going to start with an introduction for folks that are joining the stream. Welcome. So as you know, may or may not know, we're having a very big storm in the Boston area. I guess is putting it mildly. And so we've had to revert back to a remote live stream for the meeting this evening. And but anyway, we're just to let you know, we're super excited about our upcoming meetings because, as you noticed for this meeting, but before it was canceled for the storm, of course, is that it's at a new location at the Microsoft office in Cambridge. And so we're really excited about that. We'll be hosting future events there. We'll still be hosting in Burlington as well. But for the next few meetings, we'll be hosting at the Microsoft Cambridge office. And so that's where this meeting was supposed to be tonight. But as you know, we had over a foot of snowfall fell. And so we're falling back on remote. So if you are tuning in, thank you for being here. Just let me start with a little bit about our group. So this is the monthly meetup for the Boston Healthcare Cloud and AI community. We like to say we're a local group based out of Boston with a global reach. I'd like to also take a moment to thank our sponsors. So there are two big sponsors, are Real Activity and Microsoft. So we appreciate their support for the community. And about us. So the Boston Healthcare Cloud and AI community was launched about 5 years ago in 2020. At that time, I was doing a bunch of community stuff globally around the world, speaking, organizing events. And long story short, when things slowed down and stopped in 2020, we decided to launch this local group here in Boston. And of course, it was remote through 2020, 21. And then we started our in-person meetings in 22. So the short of it is, if you're at all interested and you're doing anything at all with healthcare, AI, technology in the context of healthcare or HLS, then you're our people. It's a very inclusive community. We do hold networking events. So for example, one of the things we're very excited about is we'll be co-hosting a networking event at an AI summit I believe that's in April. We'll make sure folks get the date. And then we also do one-day events, so one-day conferences once a year, and that's usually at the Microsoft office. And then, of course, these monthly meetups. And so the idea is that we believe a rising tide lifts all ships. And so we're very interested in working with students and new folks and veterans and business folks. Really, again, anybody with an interest in just making healthcare, global health, and HLS better, right? And so that's a huge canvas when you look at the opportunity in that space. So that's who we are. Obviously we're on Discord. We have a link tree and mailing list as well. So feel free to hit the QR code here, and there's also a link that'll be available on the YouTube video following the event. So I'd like to start this evening with just a quick update on, or maybe review is a better word, on the Microsoft AI tour in New York City last week. So it's worth bringing this up because this was really the first big AI event for Microsoft to kick off 2026. And the event was really amazing. I'd like to start by saying even logistics were just handled great. It was at the Javits Center. It was last week on Wednesday. It was icy cold, but 4,000 people made it down to the event. And it turned out to be a great day. I think a couple of things that I noticed that I wanted to share with the community is that one of the things that surprised me is how mature the AI content is finally getting. So for the first year or two, there was a lot of sort of, sparkle and demos and lots of, what if type things. And in all fairness, there was stuff being released, but I felt this year was different. I felt like the content had really matured and people were digging into very specific issues. One that stands out the most to me is, bringing products and projects from POC or, MVP through to into production. And that seems to be a big stumbling block for a lot of folks. But it's not because of the reasons you might think. And so I don't want to, go too much here on that topic in this meeting. I'm just giving sort of an overview, and, you could feel free to revisit or, head up to the AI Tour site, and they've got some links that cover how Microsoft is, shifting to this tools way of thinking, if you will. And of course, Copilot Studio is part of that, and GitHub and VS Code, etc. So just a great event, deep on content. If I had to list one more thing that I did want to mention is it was also great to see NVIDIA there. NVIDIA showed their agent stack, NeMo. They showed also their new inferencing server, which is called Dynamo. And they really help answer that question of, okay, how do I take that proof of concept agent that I may have done in, Copilot Studio or another, another framework or editor, right? And then how do I get that into production where it can scale? So definitely check that out too. So again, it was NeMo for the agent framework and Dynamo for the inferencing framework. And so just an amazing week. I had some great meetings with healthcare leaders afterwards, and it's, to hear all the stuff that's happening in New York City right now, both on healthcare and on the HLS side, is nothing short of inspiring. So the good news is they have one coming up in our local community as well in Boston. So I guess here's some event photos just real quick. This is the New York City event. So you can see we had 4,000 people, and there's me posing at the new Zava store. So Zava is the new fictitious company that Microsoft will build its demos around, etc. But anyway, so the good news is good and bad. Bear with me here. The Microsoft AI Tour, the same one that was in New York City, again, the last week, the first one of the year, it was actually scheduled to be tomorrow. So I was so excited to tell everybody this during the user group meeting, but they canceled it just this afternoon. They were like, with all this snow that fell in the snowstorm, we're going to go ahead and schedule a new date. So just a heads up on that, because I highly recommend for the local Boston healthcare cloud and AI community, go out, get a ticket. It's a free ticket. So it's very little out of pocket, and it's grown. I mean, this one's at the Sheraton. So just like in New York, they had to move it from the Microsoft office to the Javits Center. Here in Boston, they're moving it from the Microsoft office to the to the Sheraton Conference Center. So super exciting. And again, it was canceled, but there will be a new date. It's to be announced. And of course it will. I saw the speakers, of course, because Boston being a health tech hub, there's some really great healthcare content. As a matter of fact, during the keynote, they actually have somebody that's from HLS, if I remember correctly. And so especially for our community here in Boston, the local healthcare community, we want to definitely, I encourage you to be at this event. All right. So that's sort of my updates, and that's about us. And as you know, this meetup is going to be virtual because we had to move tonight. We're super excited for our February meetup, just so you know ahead of time. That's going to be in person, and that will be at the Cambridge office, the Microsoft office. We'll keep folks updated on that. And Wednesday, March 25th, we're super excited about this. It's our special networking meetup, and that will be at the AI Builders Summit, Healthcare Summit in Boston. Okay, so more on events. And now on to our featured speaker, I'm very excited to introduce Selva. And one of the reasons why I'm especially excited about this topic is because I saw last week in New York City, we already know the obvious, like how important data is to AI and to this newer generation of technology that we're working with. But what's really fascinating is in healthcare, especially when you're working with these hospital systems and research, and really across the industry, the trend more and more is to multi-cloud, right? Many of these hospital systems have multiple clouds. They'll have, private cloud, or some people might say on-prem. I like to, to me, most on-prem today looks and smells a little bit more like private cloud. So I like to think of it as private cloud / on-prem. And then, of course, we've got our public clouds, and then the smaller ones, right, that have sort of evolved throughout the years. I'm thinking of things like Smart Sheets, right, and the work that's independent work that Salesforce is doing. And by the way, I don't not to apply by any means by Salesforce is a small company, but in the relative scheme of things, when we're looking at the size of these players. But my point is, it's a multi-cloud world, and I think more and more this is important, not only from an architecture perspective, but also when we start implementing tools like Fabric, right? So as you know, on the Microsoft side, Microsoft made this in New York City, Fabric obviously is the data tier. One of the interesting things we can do with Fabric is we can consume data from other cloud providers, AWS, running on Oracle, etc. Really sort of almost name your flavor. Fabric, it just keeps growing with the industry connectors, Databricks, obviously, of course, etc., etc. And of course, AWS is a big piece of this, right? And so, as a matter of fact, I think one of the other quick things I would like to mention is there were some huge announcements on the consumer side of health, meaning at the JP Morgan event 2 weeks ago, ChatGPT Healthcare was announced. And then Anthropic Health was announced, and AWS, I should say Amazon, not AWS, one also announced their consumer, that they would basically be infusing that with AI, right? The stuff that they were already working on. So in that context, for all those reasons, I'm super excited that Selva could be here today to talk to us about some of the opportunities with SQL Server, and the multi-cloud environment. So again, Silva, it's an honor to have you here, and I hope that I'll leave the rest of the introduction up to you, my friend. And again, I'm looking forward to your presentation. So I'll duck out now and just come back in the end. But thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you so much for the introduction and everything. It's like, thanks for having me here to presenting about that GxP compliance. That's an interesting topic, especially since we are in a life science thing. How much compliance matters to us, especially when you touch it about the multi-cloud and everything. How we are going to make that compliance database. So that's a topic about it. So let me share my screen, then we can take it up from there.
Sounds great. Thanks. Just let me know if you need any help.
Yep. You're able to see my screen, Paul?
Let me add it. Hold on. Yes, now we can. We can see the slides and your photo, and the screen looks great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, good, Paul. So yeah, let me start with the disclaimer. Yeah, this is purely for education purpose, and then all the topics or practices what we are talking about, it's all will be on a AWS and Microsoft documentation. It's like nothing on a confidential or a proprietary data included into it. So let me start with the agenda. We are going to talk about first of all, I want to give an introduction about what is GxP, because a lot of people will not working on this life science environments and all. So I will start with the introduction. What is GxP? Then how the multi-cloud, especially here we are looking today is a SQL Server as a one topic. In the future, we can talk about all kind of a database flavors and everything. Now we are fully focusing on a SQL Server platform. Then I'll talk about what is a mapping of a GxP controls, how we are mapping the controls and everything. Then how we can implement the controls, and then how the life cycle goes. In a life cycle, in a sense of how we have three kind of a life cycle in a life science environment or any regulated bodies environment. So let's talk about IQ, OQ, PQ. That's a process, how the process goes. Then how you enable the GxP control, and then what's the best practice and case study. So that's all about our agenda. So then let me go to, first we start with what is GxP. So GxP is like X is a variant. It's like it starts with a good practice. Either it could be a manufacturing, or it could be a laboratory, or it could be a clinical. So If it's a manufacturing, then we call as a GMP. If it's a laboratory, then GLP. Or if it's like something you're going to do it on a clinical, then there is a standard is called GCP. So X is a variant. It's based upon that where you use it up. Either it's a manufacturing or a laboratory or a clinical. That based upon that it's changes. Then why we need a GxP? It's all about is data integrity and product quality and patient safety. Since it's a life science, it's like it's touching the patients. You have to be very safety oriented, right? When you produce something, so that's a key area. It's a data integrity and product quality and the patient safety. So who is driving this is like it's pretty much it's a FDA audit requirement. It's like a 21 CFR Part 11, and then EU it's called as GMP. So it's a regulatory framework. So you have to satisfy these things to produce anything about your controls and everything. It has to be satisfied, the data integrity and product quality and everything has to be satisfied. Then only we can use the product in any kind of a multi-cloud strategy or any database. It has to work with the 21 CFR Part 11 compliance. So it's purely it's like when you produce something, you have to have a digital record, and then you have to have auditability. Then you have to have a how you are managing your data and integrity part of it. This all controls in the GxP platform. So we are going to explain in more detail how it fits into the AWS and Azure platform. So this is about a GxP. Then I'm going to the SQL Server. Now we are going to top into the SQL Server side. SQL Server in both the platform in AWS and Microsoft Azure. I have it on a slide. One side is the AWS. Let's start with the AWS platform. AWS will offer in a two kind of a flavor. One is they call us Amazon RDS platform. This is fully managed platform. It's like it comes with all the patching, backups, everything. They take care of it. We can go on the next slide. I'll go into detail about it. Then second flavor is they call as an EC2. EC2 is like just running a SQL server on a virtual platform. What you have it in on-prem, we call as a virtual server or a physical server. Same thing. EC2 they give a elastic compute. You can install the SQL server. Either you can buy the license through AWS AMI. You can buy the license from them, or you can use your own license. That's a bring your own license. You can buy your license and you can use it in AWS platform. So it's AWS is integrated with IAM, and then CloudWatch and KMS, CloudTrail. These are all strong integration with the SQL Server for auditing and the logging and the trail. It's like what are the activities you are doing. We will discuss about more details about it. Then in the side of Microsoft Azure side, we have three kind of offering. One we call as Azure SQL. This is kind of a platform as a service platform. It's a sense of like as a service. Thing is like it's very a minimal thing. What you can do is like Microsoft will take care of everything. You have a minimal thing. This is mainly used for a non-production workloads or a smaller workloads. We can use Azure SQL. Then Azure SQL managed instance is almost equivalent to Amazon RDS platform. So they have the same thing. Then we have Azure SQL on virtual machines. It's the same thing. It's like how we do it in a EC2. We can install your own SQL server, and then you can buy a license from Microsoft Azure platform, or you can use your own license. So again, Azure is integrated with the Active Directory. Obviously, it's Microsoft product. It's integrated with Azure Active Directory. Then you have Azure Monitor. That's equivalent to the CloudWatch and everything. How you monitor the thing platform. And then we have a dedicated tool for a Defender for SQL, which is for a more into audit and compliance oriented on a thread analysis and everything. We can use a Defender for SQL. This is like a kind of a overview how SQL platform, SQL Server is given on both the platform on a cloud oriented. Then we'll go back to the RDS platform. What is RDS first of all? So let's understand what is RDS is. Amazon Relational Database Services. It's a key feature is like it's a fully managed. AWS handle the provisioning, patching, backup, and recovery. Everything AWS manage it. Again, it's easily scalable, and then storage perspective and everything. You don't want to worry about it. Or do I do a storage? Do I need to buy anything, or do I need to extend the LAN, extend the disk? You don't want to worry about it. It's all scalable and everything. You can set up the minimum and maximum threshold. Then you can adjust the auto growth and everything. It will grow automatically. So it's based upon the scalable thing. Then it's a highly available. So they call us like a multi-AZ. It's like it's a fault tolerance in a sense of like in a AZ thing is like you have multiple data center in a northeast itself. So inside the region, you can do the failover and everything. That's called as multi-AZ. You can enable that feature. It's like it's based upon that. Either it could be if you are running a SQL server as a standard edition or something, then it will be a mirroring. They use a mirroring as a backend. Or if you use like a enterprise edition, then they use such like always on as a replication copy. Either you can do it in a multi-AZ, it's like inside the region, or you can do it in multi-region as well. There is an option, you can do the multi-region as well. Then backups, you don't want to worry about it. It's all automated backups. It comes with a point-in-time recovery, and then it will be AWS will take care of it. It's based upon your agreement with SLA and everything. They take closer to the almost like every 5 minutes they run the backup. That's the closest one they run. So your data loss is very, very minimal. That's almost like every 5 minutes they take a backups and everything. So RDS is not only hosting as a SQL Server. It's supported on a multiple engines, like they ran Amazon Aurora. It's like own a database platform for Amazon. Then you can host a PostgreSQL, then MySQL, MariaDB, and Oracle. So pretty much all kind of a database flavors we can run it in RDS platform. So this is like kind of a hosting as like a RDS is like kindly it's a validated environment. It's like you can run the workloads of GxP. So life science workloads can be deployed in RDS platform. So now we can go back to the responsibility side of it. You have two kind of a responsibility, right? So like one is what you responsible, what customer responsibility is. As a cloud provider, AWS or Microsoft responds for like a physical security. They owns the data center. They own the network infrastructure maintenance, and then even a power, HVAC, hardware lifecycle, everything they take care of it. Then even a host level patching, they do it. Then automated backups and high availability, like we discussed on a multi-AZ and everything. You need to enable it. They make sure that it's a replication is happening. If something goes wrong, they will take care of it. That's their responsibility. And then compliance oriented, like a ISO and PCI thing and all, they want it on the platform. Then cloud level security, they take care of it. In a customer side, as I said, it's like you have to make sure you validated and qualified the platform, that IQ, OQ, PQ, you have to do it. Then you need to make sure your database configuration, because it's a platform is owned by AWS, Microsoft, but it's like whatever the configuration on top of that, you need to configure on the database side of it. Then change control, you have to follow. Then access control is customer responsibility, like a SQL logins or IAM or Active Directory integration. You need to make sure who has access, are the right people who have access to the right database. So those things will comes under the customer responsibility. Then again, same thing, encryption, it's a customer thing. It's like you have to make sure that you have a KMS or SSL enforcement, you have to do it. And then whatever the data integrity or audit trail management, you have to take care of it, because it's like an audit trail is the customer responsibility. You need to make sure you enable the audit trail. Then how you log your auditing, whether it goes to where it will be, how long you want to retain the auditing log and everything. It's a customer responsibility. Then especially in the GxP environments, if you are running, you have to make sure you have a proper document, and then you do the periodic review. You can do a periodic review. Is like you have to make sure like every monthly or quarterly once you go through the document, you verify whether who are all having access, whether the access is required or it's not required. Those things and all you have to do the periodic review. That's called as a PAR. So you do a periodic review and make sure that people are having right access and everything. That's a customer responsibility. Then application level controls and SOP, you have to write your own SOP. It's a standard operating procedure. You have to have a SOP and everything. You need to work on it. So that's a customer responsibility side of it. Then when we go for mapping a GxP control into the SQL Server, we have two layers here. So one is like, let's talk about the data integrity. Mainly we talks about, these are the, if you see it in the left side, you have data integrity, audit trail, access control, change control, backup and recovery, system validation, data retention, and security monitoring. These are the 8 pillars, I'll say. This is mainly used for a GxP. So when it comes to the data integrity, we talks about TDE and SSL TDS. TDE is like a transparent data encryption. You can enable it on a SQL Server. Either you do it on a RDS platform or Amazon, as like even on a Microsoft. It will be the same thing. It's like almost it's the same thing. The TDE is a SQL Server feature from Microsoft. You can enable it in both the platform, both both the cloud by either it's in AWS or a Microsoft Azure. You can enable it. So why we need to do it is like, this is the one which ensures the protected and unaltered technically when it comes to the data integrity. That's what very critical in a sense of like in a 21 CFR, part 11 and 11.10C. So that's the first thing we have to do. You have to have a TDE or SSL or a TLS encryption. Then next pillar will be audit trailing. Audit trail will comes with 3 areas, like either it could be a SQL Server auditing or a Cloud Watch log or a Cloud Trail or even Azure Monitor. So those are the logs we have to enable. The thing is like when a person make a changes into the database, or the person, or when you has run the query and everything, you need to make sure you are tracking. Either it could be a DDL or a DML or a DCL statements. Any kind of a statements when it runs on a GxP, especially I'm talking about a production workloads, you need to make sure you are tracking the changes. Because when any kind of a compliance audit comes in, you have to prove, yes, this is what happened, this is the time it's there. So it's, so you have to enable the SQL Server auditing, the future, to capture all kind of a statements, what kind of a changes are happening and everything. You need to capture it. That's a very critical thing. It will capture like a system level activity as well as the user level activity. Even if you change the parameter in the SQL Server, it has to be captured. That comes under the DCL. So every changes, whatever the changes you make in a SQL Server platform, the database platform, it has to be captured. Then second thing is you need to make sure how long you can retain the changes also. It changes based upon the life cycle and period and all. Some companies, they maintain 7 years. Some companies, they maintain the log for up to 30 years. So based upon your QA team, you can check with them and how long you want to retain the CloudWatch logs or a SQL Server audit log. They will tell you the better things. Okay, I want to manage for 7 years or a 10 years or a 3 years or 30 years. So based upon that, you need to adjust your logging mechanism and everything. The third, we are talking about access control. This is very critical. Like you need to integrate. SQL Server can be integrated with the two level. One is like either you can do it in a Windows level Active Directory integration. It's allowed in both AWS and Microsoft Azure platform. You can integrate with your Active Directory, or you can go with the IAM integration. That's like in a AWS, especially the IAM roles, you can map it and you can do the integration authentication. Or as usual, like a last option will be a SQL Server login. That's a least preferred option because it's kind of a local account. So if a person has a local account, if a person leaves the company and everything, you have to be make sure that the password is not compromised. Or the second, the another thing is like if you are running a SQL Server login, it's a local account. You need to make sure that you're rotating the passwords. So that's a least priority, like in sense of like that's a last option. You can take it up in a SQL Server login. The better option is like integrate with Active Directory so that you have a better control. If a person leaves from the company, or if any passwords, whatever the password policy, use it in across your enterprise, you can apply the same policy there. So you don't want to worry about like the password policies and everything. The second thing is like instead of a person having an individual login, he has to be a part of Active Directory group, so that if even a person leaves the company, his account will be automatically removed. So you don't want to worry about it. If you are using a SQL Server login as a local account, you need to make sure you have to log in and you need to disable that account. So that enforces like a segregation of a duties and traceability. So technically, so you have to make sure that what kind of access control you are going to put on it. Then a change control is like, that's a very critical thing in a change control in any kind of a production machine. It's not about a GxP, it's applicable to any production workloads. So if you are changing the parameter group or a snapshot or even a even notification, everything you have to have a change control. You have to follow the process. Say like, okay, I'm upgrading my SQL Server from a lower version like a 2017 to 2022 or 2025. You have to have the change control. You have to document each and everything. What are the steps you are going to make? What is your input? It's like IQ. Then what is your output? What is your expected output of it? So everything has to be documented based upon your ITSM tool. Either it could be a ServiceNow or some other tool, whatever the tool you use it. You have to make sure you document all the steps. Okay, if something goes wrong, what will be your backup plan? So even your test plan, everything has to be documented, because this is very critical when it comes to the audit. They will ask you like, okay, so you did the changes, where is the document? So that's where you have to prove, yes, we followed the steps, this is the steps we followed, this is our change control, this is what we did it. So this is very critical on any production. I'll not talk about like not only GxP or life science workloads. It's like anything you do that you have to have a change control. Then the fifth pillar will be a backup and recovery, especially on RDS or Azure SQL or Azure Managed Instance. It's all backed up by automated backups. So they have their policy and everything. Only the thing the customer has to worry about a retention period. How long you need to retain the backups. So by default, they'll give for a 35 days, but you have an option how long you want to extend. Say like I want to extend my backups for a 1 year, then you can extend the backups for a 1 year, up to 1 year, but you have to write it up like okay, you can take a snapshot and then you can move it to somewhere in S3 or Azure blob on a regular basis so that you can keep it. The more time. Like I say, by default is 35 days, but in the production workloads and all, maybe we want to have a little larger workloads, larger retention time and all, maybe you can adjust it and then you can keep it for a long time. That's an automated backup thing. Then especially on a multi-AZ and all, especially for a production workloads, if something goes wrong in a one region or a one AZ, so you have to make sure at least your production has a multi-AZ enabled. So that if something goes wrong on one AZ, say like a US 1A, it's down, at least it runs on a US 1AB. So that way you have a multi-AZ copies, your production downtime will be a little lesser comparatively, so you will not lose the thing, but it comes with the additional cost because you are replicating the copy to the another instance. So based upon the instance size and everything, you have to pay additional money to that, because so that's what it's better to enable for only a critical production workloads. It's not for everything. So that's a backup and recovery part of it. Then even a snapshot, like we are not going to follow the native way of taking a backup in any cloud platform. It's a kind of a snapshot. So the snapshot will be taken, it's a point in time recovery point. Is like a, when you run a snapshot, it runs in like a 5 minutes. It takes the, it's put up the pointer on it and then it takes the backup. So it will be a consistent backup, but it's very quiet. It's like much faster. It's like maybe it takes like a 5 to 10 minutes to take the snapshot. Again, your recovery also, it's much faster because it's a snapshot level. It's not like a native way of taking a backup or recovery. So that comes with the snapshots. Then the next pillar will be a system validation. As I told you earlier, you have to have a three kind of a process, right? So IQ, OQ, and PQ. So we'll go a little detail about it. So you have to have a documentation. You have to document everything. What you do it in IQ is like installation, what kind of installation you are doing and everything. You have to document it. OQ is how you are validating it, the output of it. You have to document it. And PQ is like a how you are running, whether your parameters are matching with what you are expecting. So that's a PQ. So you have to document everything with the AWS artifacts, like evidence, like everything you have to do evidence. Is like, okay, this is what I did it. In case of audit and everything, they'll ask you to show like IQ, OQ, PQ is processed. Then they will ask us to show you the documentation as well. So you need to have a clear documentation, and then you can put it in either one of your system, like the Viva. It's another thing. It's a controlled environment, validated. You can create your SOP, and then you can upload your SOP there. So that way it's properly validated. So when a system goes down, you have to follow the process, how you recover the system back. That works as a DR document as well. So as I told you, like the data retention part of it, it's based upon the company's, its organization, which varies. So the backups can go to the S3 on Azure Blob. You can write the backups into there. Then you can retention policy you can set based upon your organization policy. Either it could be a 3 years or a 10 years or 30 years. You can adjust your policies and everything. So that's a data retention of it. So that's again, it comes under 11.10.b. So then the last pillar will be a security monitoring. How the security monitoring works is like everything, whatever you do it in a CloudWatch matrix will document it, and then guard duty. Then we said about Defender SQL in Azure. So those are the components which comes under the security and monitoring. It's all about like a compliance, how you, what are the changes are happening. It's any threat from the outside, or it's like anyone is accessing, like a people don't have access if they're trying to access the same password, or somewhere if it's like it's a compliance oriented, all kind of a logging, or what kind of a rule you have to define it. Everything comes under the security and monitoring. So the outcome is like a continuous compliance and monitoring of it. This is kind of a GxP, how it maps and everything. So this is about especially on RDS platform. We are talking about AWS. Like a 5 pillar is a key thing I'm talking about it. Here encryption, it's a how you do the encryption is, as I said, is like in RDS platform you use a KMS or a SSL key, or like a TDE. It's a transparent data encryption. Those are the things will be used in AWS RDS platform for a SQL Server to enable the encryption. When it comes to auditing and logging in RDS, you can use like a SQL Server audits. Just like you have to do multiple steps here for enabling auditing. First thing is like you have to go and enable in a parameter level. First, you need to make sure that feature is enabled. Once the feature is enabled on an RDS platform, then you can log into the SQL Server and you can configure the SQL Server audit. What you want to capture? Either you want to capture only the DDL statements, or a DML statements, or a DCL statements. So based upon that, you can configure the auditing in a SQL Server. Then you can capture it. But the recommendation is like when you are running in a production workloads, you don't want to overkill the system as well. So you need to make sure what really you want to capture. If you started capturing like every statement, like a select query and everything, it's degrade the performance, and then you have to increase the instance size and everything. But thing is, like, you end up in paying too much money to that. So you have to be taken a calculation, like what you want to do, really what you want to capture, which is makes sense. So most of the companies, they follow like a DDL, and then DML especially, they do like only update and insert statement. They do it in a DML statement, DCL statements. That's a maximum. So they don't want to worry about the select queries and everything. So based upon your thing, you can figure it out how you want to do the auditing. So one, the audit is writing to the S3 or Azure SQL, Azure Blob. So either you can do it in like you can do it in a two-way. Either you can move from S3 to Azure Fabric and everything, where you can see the overall structure of it and what are the logs are captured. So you can create a fabric layer on top of that, and then you can create your Power BI reports and all. That's possible. You can do that. The same way in AWS side, you can move the log to S3. On S3, on top of that, you can configure a Kinesis. It's a streaming services. It streams the log from once it's returned to S3. It's a CloudWatch. It's streaming to the S3. From S3, it is you can view it in Amazon Athena or a quick site. You can view the reports and everything. You can customize the reports and all. It's based upon your requirement and everything. You can design how you want to do it, and how you want to focus the auditing. When audit comes in, how you want to show the reports and everything. So you can discuss with your QC team, and then you can decide how you want to focus it, whether you can put it in Amazon Athena or a quick site or something on a Power BI. So based upon your reporting thing, you can create your audit reports and all. So that's the thing, you can do it in auditing. And access control, as I said, is like it's like a RDS is connected with IAM authentication, and then even they support Azure Active Directory. If you have your own Active Directory replicated to AWS platform, yes, you can enable your Active Directory there. It's a pretty much it's the same thing. What you have it in on-prem SQL Server authentication with the Active Directory, you can do the same thing in RDS platform as well, because RDS supports the Active Directory authentication. That's a good feature to have it. So make sure that you replicate your Active Directory to AWS so that you can enable this feature to do the authentication. Not you don't want to use like a local account to do the authentication. Then change management and configuration control, as we discussed earlier. So it is like they have multiple features. So RDS itself, they enable like enhanced monitoring. They call us enhanced monitoring and performance insights. What it will do is like it will give you like a detail about what kind of a query you are running, where is the performance bottleneck. Apart from that, they have a basic monitoring. So if you enable that enhanced and performance insights, it gives you little more detail. If you have an external monitoring tool, then you don't want to do that, because end up in additional paying a double the time. So if you have external monitoring tool like a Foglight or Redgat or whatever the tool, use it in environment. If you have it, then you don't want to enable it, because anyway you are capturing everything there. Again, AWS will allow it because they can send the CloudWatch log. It can monitor as well. Again, it's an agentless one, especially on a Foglight or a Redgat thing. So you don't want to do it. Or if you don't have any external platform to do your monitoring thing, then you can enable this one, enhanced monitoring and performance insights. It will give you little more detail, deep dive of it, what kind of a thing it's running on your platform and everything. You can see it. Then the last will be the encryption. Encryption, you can do it in RDS parameter group. So you can enable the encryption. Either you can do it while doing the configuration, you can enable the encryption, and then you can do it in a parameter group as well. What are the parameter groups and option groups? We have two things, so that you can enable the additional layer of data security. So that is possible in RDS platform. So next thing will be the same thing. What are the things we discussed in RDS? We are going to look into the Azure SQL side. The encryption is same. So we can do a TDE, because TDE is like a pretty much, it's a common term. It's used in a SQL Server, Oracle, and all platform. It's a transparent data encryption. Microsoft supports in SQL Server, so you can enable it, and then you can enable the TLS. That's authentication. You can do it, or same thing. Azure Key Vault is there to do the authentication as well. That's all kind of an encryption oriented thing. Then audit trail, when it comes to audit trail, you can enable the same thing. You can enable the SQL auditing, because it's Microsoft own product of SQL Server. So you can do the same step. You can enable the SQL Server auditing, then it can write it to Azure Plop, the same thing we discussed, and then you can get it from there. Then you have Azure Monitor, then Azure Activity Logs. It's the same thing, closer to the CloudWatch and all. You have that option for audit trail and logging. On access control, yes, you have a AD authentication. Obviously, it's Active Directory authentication. Azure will support it. Then you can do with the SQL login, but it's a least option. We don't want to do it. If you have AD authentication, that's a preferred method of doing authentication. So you have a more control and everything. So always you make sure that it's a least privilege. That's a key area here. Enforce obviously a least privilege. Whenever it's possible, reduce, avoid from the sysadmin and everything. Only your DBA group have a authentication of a sysadmin. Rest of the people you can reduce it to the least privilege. Start with the least one. If they needed additional privileges and everything, then go for it. Don't give a enforce like a giving up a full access. That's not going to work out. Actually, go with the least privilege, and then wherever they want, you can increase it. The change control side of it and configuration, you can have enhanced monitoring, you can enable query performance insights, you can enable it. Then Azure as a config feature, you can enable it. Those are the things which comes up. Then backup and recovery, it's almost equivalent to AWS, since it's both are a cloud platform. They have automated backups and point-in-time retention. Same thing, point-in-time restore, and then long-term retention. You can decide how long you want to keep the backups. So by default, they have like a 35 days, and based upon that, you can enhance it, and then you can say like how long you want to keep the platform and everything. You can do it. So that's a long-term retention thing. Then I want to touch about validation of the life cycle. So IQ, OQ, PQ, that's a key terms here. So IQ is an installation qualification. So when it comes to the SQL Server, especially what kind of an instance you are installing, what kind of a version you are doing, what is your parameter, what is your VPC and network settings, pretty much all kind of a things you need to document in IQ. That's purely installation and configuration, actually, whether you are installed properly or you are configured properly. When it comes to lifecycle thing, it's most probably it's a monopoly and vendor-based driven products. So they will come up with the thing. Okay, this is what the version we want. This is what the parameter you want to configure it. That's from the vendor requirement. We need to align with them. So whatever the vendor recommends, okay, these are the things we want. So we need to make sure we are installing the same version, the same parameter settings we are configuring and everything. We need to make sure we are aligning with the vendor requirements. That's purely an installation qualification, like whether we installed as per the vendor qualified machines and everything, the requirement, that's an installation qualification. Next is comes what operational qualification. So, okay, your installation is done. Now you are going to do operate as intended. The thing is like, okay, you install the SQL version and everything. Now the next feature is like, okay, now I'm going to run a validation. Pretty much it's like operational side of it, like testing the scripts. Vendor can provide the script, or you can generate your own script to make sure, yes, my backup is working. The backup's automated backup, whatever AWS is taking or Azure is taking, whether I'm able to restore it. Then you can do the failover testing, and then whatever the auditing you enable, either say like you are enabled for a DML and DDL statements, you want to make sure whether your audit is captured. So when the person, you have to run some test queries and then make sure that it's all captured, whatever you want, who ran it and who executed what time, everything you need to make sure it's all captured. So that's kind of operational evidence, like what are the things to do. If it's all satisfied, then that's what it's a OQ is. It's operational oriented. Then PQ which comes with this a last step. It's a performs consistently. So you have to run as like a user workload and everything. You need to make sure that it's all performs consistently in a production environment, and then you have to test the real world scenario. Like you can start your instrument and everything, or like user workloads and everything, or user load testing and everything. You need to make sure it performs and then metrics are met as per the need of like whatever the recommended thing. Then you can give a final sign off. This is going to be the final sign off from the user acceptance sign off. This is happens in the final phase of PQ. So this is all about IQ and OQ and PQ, uh, the life cycle perspective of a SQL Server side. It's applicable to any platform, but you have to follow all the three cycles. Either it's a database platform or it could be application platform. So then, so best practice, when it comes to the best practice of GxP, this is like separate the GxP and non-GxP workloads, because you don't want to make sure that you are splitting the environments properly. You don't want to share anything between GxP and non-GxP, because it's highly regulated. One side, another side is not regulated platform. You don't want to overkill the system. Like if you follow the same thing in a GxP, like a multi-AZ and everything, you will end up in paying too much of money to AWS cloud or micro Azure cloud. It will be too expensive. So you need to make sure you separate the GxP and non-GxP workload. Then make sure you have isolation of the networks. You're not supposed to share with that, and subnet segmentation and everything. You need to make sure you are not sharing the workloads between a GxP and non-GxP. Wherever it's encryption, You have to make sure that encryption is everywhere. You have to make sure all are encrypted. Then make sure you are enabling the monitoring and auditing, because that's a basic requirement of a GxP platform or any production platform. Then, as I said, in access control, go with the least privilege. That's a main criteria. You go with the very, very least privilege access. Then you can elevate it whenever you want. Then patching and pretty much an RDS and Azure SQL, the cloud provider will take care of the patching. You don't want to do much on it. Only the thing is, like, sometimes you have to apply the certificates and everything. If they change the certificates, then you have to do it. Then patching thing, only thing is, like, you need to plan for a downtime. If you have a multi-AZ and all, you don't want to worry about it. The failure will happen automatically, it will apply. But if you don't have multi-AZ, then you need to plan downtime. You have to set up the schedule according to the downtime, and then AWS or Azure will take care of it. Microsoft will take care of the patching thing. Then disaster recovery and backups, as we discussed earlier, you have to make sure that where is your disaster recovery region. Either it could be a west region or whatever the region, or if you want to do it in another country, then make sure that you have a copy over there to do the disaster recovery. So it's not about setting up a disaster recovery plan. You have to make sure you are testing your recovery plan as well. So you have to do as like a 3 months or a 6 months once. You have to make sure that you are running the plan, go through the plan and everything, so that you can validate, yes, my disaster plan is working. It's not about writing a document. You need to validate as well. That's what it's all about. Disaster recovery is. Then whatever you do, as we discussed earlier, documents and evidence retention, like everything you need to be documented. So once you have a clear document, so anyone can manage your environment. At the same time, it will help you on auditing as well. So when you have a clear document and everything. Then last part is a continuous compliance. That's where it's very critical, because it's a continuous compliance. Is like you have to do a periodic access review. You have to make sure your environment is audited properly. You have a least privilege. Everything you have to do it. That's what it's a continuous compliance about it. Then this is about like how the workflow goes it. First we go with the verify. Then a verification is like a configuration and everything. You're matching with the vendor requirements and all. Then you are confirming the thing, confirm the encryption, whether you are enabled, the encryption is enabled and everything. Then you make sure that you monitor the thing, like how the SQL Server auditing specification, everything is there. Then make sure that creating a snapshot is like validating your backups, whether you are able to take the backup snapshots and everything. Then finally you are enabling it. So before releasing any workloads or any SQL Server to the production platform, you have to make sure you follow all the steps: verify and confirm, monitor, create, and enable. So this is kind of a 5-pillar. You need to verify it before releasing any kind of a production workloads to the real production world. So you make sure that you follow all these steps. So this is about the case study, which is the one simple case study. What we did is this is about you have a workloads in on-prem, so you want to migrate to the cloud platform. So what you do it actually. So first one is like a on-prem to the cloud database. Either it could be a Azure or a RDS platform or AWS. You migrate the workloads. Then you need to make sure you enable the encryption, auditing, automated backups based upon your retention. Everything you need to make sure you are doing it. Then the third step will be parameter and configuration. What are the parameter we need to do? Because thing is like it's not like a native SQL, right? Because you have you don't want the underlying platform. It's only it's a platform as a service only. So it's an infra as a service or a platform as a service. So you need to make sure what are the parameter you need to configure on a parameter group or a configuration. I say like some parameter they want to, especially for auditing, or that's all. Auditing will be the good one. Like you can sellable like a parameter level. You need to configure it, what kind of auditing you want to do it and everything. That kind of a setup. Then perform your IQ, OQ, PQ. So the same thing. You have to do the complete for a GxP control. Then what is your monitoring and alerting and audit logging? So you make sure that, okay, I have a monitoring enabled, I have alerting enabled, I have audit logs. Like, okay, if something goes wrong, if anything, how the trigger will go. Either it could be a PagerDuty or whatever it is, what kind of integration you have it with it. So when a system goes down or a service goes down, how you will be alerted. So that's a thing. Then you have to develop your SOPs. You have to have a clear SOP, operating procedures and everything, with the validated documents and all, how you do it. Then operational efficiency. Finally, you have to do the user load, testing and everything before releasing to the production. So it's kind of a quick thing. So the strong governance and validation automation is enabled with the efficient of database environment supporting related workloads. This is kind of a case study. So it's a very useful case study. Then That's it from my side. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. That was really amazing. Hold on, let me see something on my camera to get in here. Oh, there I am. I'm down in the corner for some reason. Side by side. So, yes, it's a great presentation. Can you refresh my memory? Are you with Moderna, if I remember correctly? Or
Yeah. I run the global database operation for Moderna.
Yeah, that's so impressive. I forgot that. That's because that's one of the more important, details in your introduction. Obviously, Moderna, they've big presence here in Boston, and do a lot for the community, and obviously have top-notch folks. They're doing a ton with Microsoft. They're doing a ton with AWS. Right? We talked about multi-cloud, et cetera, which makes sense. You get, especially with the amount of research you do and the passing data back and forth. I'm guessing you're working with just about every hospital. Certainly in the Northeast, if I had to guess, probably a lot further.
Pretty much in the global as well, how you use platform.
And then, of course, you have the de-identification as you're doing that and all that. So, yeah, we couldn't have asked for a better guest. I mean, the presentation was amazing. One thing that occurred to me as you were doing the presentation, especially towards the end when you were talking about the SOPs and the compliance, et cetera, is have you started to yourself personally or seen other people starting to use some of these newer AI tools to help with that? I'm just asking because we've started to do that on our end, and it's pretty amazing. A lot of people are blown away with how it can generate SQL code and database code, et cetera. But boy, it does from at least what we've observed, it does the same for these, compliance and SOP type documents, which is a saving grace, right? Because gosh, if it takes a lot of time to do it, what happens? A lot of times it just doesn't get done, right? Or it gets done in haste. But so what are you seeing this as well?
My thing is I'm doing this data operation side of it closer to 20 years. So I'm running the database team for all kind of license and healthcare companies. Previously I was working. So my thing is before OpenAI and ChatGPT or a Copilot, now it's a huge difference because when we want to write the documents and everything, especially the SOP, the qualified documents and all, it takes a closer to a week to a month to deciding and everything. You have to capture all the key components and everything. Now the world of a real AI, it changed completely. Now it's within a day or two, you can create a wonderful document with all kind of steps, what you wanted and everything. So that helps a huge level of huge shifting, a sense of you don't want to spend too much time on writing a document and everything. As long as you have a parameter defined properly, what you want and everything, if you want to tell clearly what you want, what you are expecting and everything. So ChatGPT and Copilot can write a better document. So that's changed a lot of things actually, especially on a Copilot. Then second thing is I'm running a global database operation side of it. When it comes to the P1 or a P2 call, so it's very crucial to the time and everything. Previously, you have to troubleshoot and all the things. You have to open a case with Microsoft to figure it out what is really happening on the error level and all. Now, if you give the error code properly, if you can give it to the Copilot, that changes a lot of time. Because it tells you it pops the KB articles and everything, what you want to do, and then where you want a real issue is, how you can figure it out and all. That saves a lot of time, especially on critical events. So
we found the same thing, and we actually we've taken it a step further. So we'll do the same thing and use the AI to get the almost like a analysis, right, of the threat and the risk, etc. But then I've even taken the next step and then put that into a cursor or vibe coder of choice and spit out a quick dashboard, right? So then all of a sudden you've just taken, boom, you start with the generative AI and you get all the details, and then the next thing is, okay, I got to present it to somebody, right? In our case, it's our clients. In your case, somebody internally maybe, but it's great for that next step, right? And then it's pick your media.
Now it seems like a Copilot is integrated with all your tools, like a Microsoft, whatever the tool you name it up, Copilot is there. Second thing is you have a SOPs and all, you have hundreds of SOP or thousands of SOP you have in your SharePoint. Now you can connect your Copilot agent into it, and then Copilot can produce it, whatever the SOP you want. You can create us a LLM onto it. On top of that, you can ask the question, it can go and search, and it can give you that. So especially on a database operation world of it, it's very simple. When you're giving instruction to the team, okay, this is what our core repository is, go and connect it. It can give you the documentation based upon what documents you have. it can follow and it can create a thing as long as you define a proper parameter of it.
I
So that's
agree
a lot
100%.
of things, Paul. Now it's
I
like it's
don't
a
know
big.
if you saw in the beginning, I don't know exactly when you came into the meeting, but during the introduction, I was talking about last week in Manhattan, they had the AI tour from Microsoft, and it was their first big AI event of the year. There was 4,000 people there. But, one of the things I observed is that the content and the conversations are getting a lot more real. Like it wasn't like the first couple of years where, I mean, as there should be, I guess, because there's a lot of excitement at first, right? The new technology. So you get a lot of like, demo sort of stuff and sizzle, if you will, right? But then, and then I think last year we dug in a little bit more, right? There was that pivot to agents, in early, late 24, early 25. And but now it seems like people are really digging in. Like the frameworks are maturing, the interoperability, the database stuff that we're talking about here, and the multi-cloud interoperability back and forth. The partnerships with NVIDIA, with Oracle, with AWS, with Microsoft, right? And then on the consumer side, the huge announcements from ChatGPT Health and Anthropic Health. And so I'm just wondering, are you starting to see the same thing? Like at Moderna, are the conversations getting a little bit more serious? Like
Yeah, yes, Paul.
what are you seeing?
So my thing is like I see it's like a lot of things is going towards the Copilot thing.
Yeah.
So we are using like both OpenAI and Copilot. Like
Yeah.
so both are excellent thing in a sense of like a Copilot. Really, it's like a moving forward. It's a lot of because they owns the lot of platform when it comes to the SharePoint or Teams and
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
So that's a game changer. That's a giving advantage of a Microsoft LC. So because they owns a lot of platform, even on a SQL Server 2025, the new release,
Yeah.
it's comes with the agent. So you
Yeah.
can do like a even automatic of tuning and everything. It's Microsoft is saying like you don't want to do any tuning. Like if you tell us like if you have performance, that Copilot can go and tune the queries as well.
Yeah.
It can give you the thing because like it's a production workloads and everything. It's everything is critical for us. So it's giving like a lot of things they are going towards. So that I see like even in a Visual Studio, the year we have is like you have to write your code, you have to fine tune,
Yeah.
you have to fix everything, you have to write your Python codes and all. Now it's like a Copilot can write a better codes, and then it can save us like a lot of time and sense of like.
Yeah.
So you can put your effort on the something else. Like you don't want to write on spending a time on writing a logic or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially people like us that have been in the industry for a long time. Like I've written enough T-SQL. I'm totally okay just checking it now.
Now it's completely changed because like I say like in my starting of my career, I'm talking about 15 years or 16 years or 20 years back. I'm saying you have to write your SQL query, like you have to join multiple tables, you have to think about it,
Right.
how you join, how the performance will be impacted, everything you need to fine tune it. Now it's like if you give a requirement and if you tell us like what's the index and everything, it's like ChatGPT can give or Copilot can give a better query.
And now you
So
can even do screenshots now. Like the technology's gotten so good. You can be like looking at your SQL Server thing, right?
Exactly.
Do a
You can
quick
like
screenshot.
that is what the SQL 2025 will be the game changer. Whatever it's
Yeah, I
Microsoft will
agree.
come with that.
Yeah.
It's like it's a even it's you can do the replication to Fabric layer. That's
Yeah.
I see it's like a huge change. The
Yeah,
Microsoft
that's very
Fabric
huge.
is the
Yeah.
game changer right now. I feel it up because the replication right now, what we have is a native replication. We are not replicating to the warehousing and everything.
Right.
But when it comes to the Fabric, you can do a replication on the fly to Fabric. From there, it's like it's become a warehousing system and
Yeah.
data lake systems. Like you can on top of that, you can have a Power BI and all. Then you
Yeah.
have a full feature of a Copilot. That's kind of a game changer. I see.
I
So the
agree.
people it's like we have like a terabytes of database and everything. Now you don't want to go on a normal way of a crystal reporting or a kind of a real reporting like a Tableau and all.
Yeah.
So the Fabric can solve a lot of problem.
I
And
agree.
having a data and then doing the scanning and everything, that's a kind of a game changer I see. So you can get a real time of a data driven business. So the data is the key thing. I see like a Fabric is changing a lot of things. I see. That's
I
the
couldn't agree more. And that's part why I was so excited to have you on the to have you at the meeting this month. Just one quick thing, because I feel like we could go on and on and on. So I'll make this my last question. But you were talking about Copilot and doing more and more with Copilot, and I think one of the things that I've been really impressed with is the work that Anthropic's been doing with Claude and Claude Code. And they've recently released the Claude Co work. And as I'm sure you know, Microsoft recently has allowed us to start using those models inside of Copilot, which I just think from an architecture perspective, as well as probably a business perspective, but I won't go there because I'm more of an engineer, but it seems to me to be a really good move, right? Because I mean, at least in my opinion, because, we do a ton of stuff in Claude, we use multiple AIs, we use the Microsoft Copilot, of course, for our collaboration and work inside, the teams at Microsoft 365, but we also use Claude, Claude Code, right? It'd be another example. And sometimes we'll even judge with Gemini or Grok. Sometimes, is what we find ourselves doing. So anyway, I'm just curious, any thoughts on that? Are you in agreement? Are you excited? Have you started playing with that a little bit? Like actually wiring in?
Yeah, I'm so excited. This cloud and everything, we are able to use it now, actually, because now we are more into the OpenAI and all.
Yeah.
So now Copilot is giving a lot of future into it. Like that's a freedom, I say. Like you can use whatever the model you want to use it up in a cloud thing. That's going to be I see like that's going to be definitely that's going to be benefit in everywhere. So
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So even a Gemini also, they have like a lot of thing actually. It's even
they're all doing it's very exciting.
Exactly. They can use all the models and everything. I see like that. That's really useful as well.
I don't, in closing, I'll just let folks know as well, my personal opinion, I don't see things slowing down in 2026. I mean, the year's already off to a rocket start. Yeah, exactly. If you just look at all the announcements.
Go down, actually, it's going to be as you said, it's going to be the rocket thing. Like it's going to keep on, they're going to do it. A lot of futures and everything. That's no doubt about it.
Well, Selva, again, it's an honor to have you here, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time. And I guess I look forward to doing this in person soon. So, of course, you've got an open invitation, and we would love to have you come join us at one of our upcoming meetings at Microsoft. And just great stuff. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks for having me. And then definitely, I love this opportunity. And then future, like definitely, we can do a more talking about like data and then multi-cloud strategy. Even we try to do a live demo as well, so that will be useful.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, it's so much easier when we're in person.
Unfortunately, today we are not able to do due to the bad weather and everything. But next thing, like definitely we can sync up and then let's do a live demo on in-person thing.
Amazing.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much.
Again,